Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Sinner. So a lot of things went down in this episode. First of all, we got a new cop kind of coming into the case. Her name's Gloria. Right off the bat, it seems like Gloria is the most antagonistic towards Cora. I guess it's a situation where she's automatically, not just her, everyone automatically thinks Cora's guilty. The only person that has the biggest reservations is Harry. Everyone else is kind of like, oh, there's some interesting things in these cases. And his partners kind of come around a little bit too. But Gloria's coming in full steadfast, like, oh yeah, she did it, didn't she? And even going as far as trying to pin this second body on her. But it's like, why are you because even Harry brings it up. Why are you doing that? We don't even know the motive of death. The cause of death. We don't even know who the identity of the person is, and you're already trying to blame Cora on it. Because I'm sure for her, it's like, I can't remember, and I'm just remembering mumbo jumbo. No. I don't think she has all the transcripts of knowing what exactly went down, that this is kind of like a hypnosis thing. And even if it was, she probably thinks Cora's playing everyone, because especially when it comes to Harry and Cora, because she's thinking the fact of the matter is, comes up that question again of why you're doing this, why you're going above and beyond, because Harry did a lot of off the book meetings with Cora, and Gloria kind of was made a snide comment of I like to typically record everything, even if the leads and stuff don't pan out, just might save you one day. And later on she kind of turns it on him by being like, oh, do you do this for all your everyone you're investigating, or just someone that looks like Cora? Kind of basically referencing are you doing this just because she's pretty? Which, still, even at this point in time, we still don't 100% know what Harry's motivation for going as far as he has with Cora. I pointed out there maybe it has something to do with his own past that we don't know about. I'd reference maybe it has something to do with the child him and Faye lost. Maybe it's just the fact of the matter is, as a guy who seeks the truth, maybe he sees that there's something just not right about this, that everyone else is just willing to be like, yeah, she did it, but he knows there's a lot more to this story, so maybe he just saw something in Cora that's just there's more to this than that. But it's just so interesting, because I feel even later on in the episode, Gloria is even going as far as being like, come on, just confess, tell the truth. And then you had Cora saying go to hell, because for her it's she's also being presented all this stuff at the front, the second body's up there, and now it's okay, they're dropping it down in this new deal. Her lawyer's telling hey, they'll give you 20 years, then you could possibility to parole and everything. It's the best option, because if they convict you on this second body, you will be living back-to-back life sentences, no chance of parole for I think 80 years or something like that. And it's you don't know that she actually did it, but there's all this other stuff. It's so interesting that all the news media immediately goes oh man, this has something to do with Cora's murder. Either someone leaked that, how do you get to that information immediately that this has something to do with Cora's and the whole Frankie murder? I'm curious, how did they come to that thing? Either some cops are talking. I'm sure every news station has their inside source from police stations and stuff like that. So maybe that's what happened in this case. I just thought that was kind of interesting. They literally just dug up the body and it's already on the news that this is connected to Cora. I just thought that was kind of interesting, and maybe that kind of plays a role in it. But nevertheless, it does seem that the blood later on in the episode, at the end, is that blood is definitely Cora's that's on a blanket, which doesn't necessarily mean that she did kill said person, whoever it is. Obviously, it most likely looks like it's Maddie, but even then, it's who's to say that she actually did it? Who's to say she couldn't have been a victim and all of this and stuff like that? Because things are obviously not looking 100% good, because this is all connected to some club called the Beverwick Club. Now, with it seems like there was a lady who worked there named Cynthia who got fired, but it was kind of she tried to file a suit, a wrongful termination, because basically she was doing a fundraiser at one point in time and she passed out, woke up naked in the passenger side of her car the next day or something like that, and a week later they fired her. So there's definitely something going on there, because Cora had a similar story, waking up out of nowhere after having been gone for 2 months, and it didn't click in my head until this episode. It's kind of interesting. really quickly. I didn't like it. Didn't come two and two didn't come together in my head because I forget, because every time like her parents reference that 2 month period, it's like, oh, Cora left, she ran away. I forgot that that 2 month period that Cora was going, that's the window frame of when Phoebe died. So while Cora's off caught up in this whole situation, whatever it is exactly, her sister died, which is sad because obviously in this part of the episode, in this episode, you also got a deeper dive into Phoebe and Cora's relationship. We actually see them a little bit older. It seems like they're saving money, all for the purposes of buying a place and trying to get out of there. You also have like Phoebe setting Cora up on dates and stuff. Like, first one doesn't pan out. Second one, she ends up with a dude that like Phoebe's like, hey, dude says offering more money, and even if it does pan out, maybe you could be her sugar daddy. She says it jokingly, but she also says something I thought was kind of interesting for her. She was like, the fact is, Cora, you're the only reason why I'm doing this. Like, you're the only reason why this is all worthwhile. If it wasn't for you, I'd be dead, you know, because Cora's the only reason why she keeps going. Because it seems like even she herself has a problem with her mom. Like, she wants to get away from her mom too. Whether it's just the fact is her mom treats her like a doll, or because, you know, like we already know how, because when her mom's beside her praying and stuff, Phoebe kind of makes faces at her and Cora kind of smile and laugh. So it's that, but I think it's also the fact is maybe on the level Phoebe doesn't like the way their mom blames Cora for everything, and she's just tired of like her mom's kind of a tyrant. Once again, like even with this whole situation being what it is, like the dad never steps in. It's always the mom. Like later, like when everything kind of played out, the mom ended up calling Cora a whore later on in the episode because Phoebe was like panicking and freaking out, calling the cops and everything because she couldn't get in contact with Cora. And it's like she was like, oh my god, I might have sent my sister on a date with a sketchy dude and he killed her or something. She panicked. But obviously, like, Cora was with JD, which I'll get to that in a second. But her mom's like yelling at her, calling Cora a whore and stuff like that. So like, look at what you did to your sister. Look what you did. So all that, it seems like to be the point of like they were trying to get away. And it's so interesting because you never really seen Phoebe be very defiant when it comes to their mom, but now we see her older and she's just kind of like, let's get out of here, Cora, like, you know. So it seems like the only reason why she ever kind of is okay with living day to day mainly seems like it's for Cora, which is kind of interesting when you look at the relationship, especially compared to when they were younger. It seems like obviously they had animosity towards each other, but it seems like they, over the years, they have grown together because it's like, well, they know like the common denominator that kind of messes with their lives a little bit is their mom. So I think that's kind of what they bonded over, and it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting seeing that perspective of their, it's also interesting too because we are seeing them older. Granted, like I said, with the whole way the circumstances are, it's like, this is Cora when she was like 23. This is like roughly around the time Phoebe died because she just met JD, which is kind of interesting because I thought what's going to happen is Phoebe's going to set her up because this is whole like dating situation. So I thought she's going to set him up with Cora up with JD. Turns out JD was there, kind of saved her from like that weirdo dude that was kind of getting handsy with her. Because she was trying to back away. He's trying to have a whole affair and everything, but Cora was kind of backing down. He grabbed on her and everything, and JD came to the rescue, took her to a party, ended up running, and it runs into Maddie. And I think we kind of got to understand why Cora really liked JD so much. It's because I think JD didn't have any expectations. It's just like, no matter what your life is, like, what about you? He focused on her. I think for her, it's like for the first time and probably forever, she actually feels like she's being seen by someone else. Because even to her family, like earlier in the episode, you see her kind of coming home and she's like, I'm home, Mom. And her mom just ignores her. So she's invisible. So just, you know, and she's lived such a life because of her mom that she's kind of been cut from the outside world. So someone from the outside world seeing her, I don't know, maybe that's why, you know. Plus the fact is that JD was kind to her, you know, and everything. So maybe that kind of played a role in this whole situation of like why they kind of hit it off to begin with. It's actually kind of interesting because we actually kind of saw the darker side of JD too, because Gloria ended up arresting JD's girlfriend for the drugs and everything. Harry was like, don't do that, let's wait, but kind of blew that lead just because Gloria was like, well, it's a dead end anyway. It's like, well, you don't know that. I mean, I think she's so in her own head about the fact is of like, Harry, like they haven't really got this figured out. I'm gonna come in and figure it out because Harry, he's got his own agenda in all of this, you know, which I don't know. Like I said, I feel like out of anyone, she's like the most to aim being like, hey, Cora, you're guilty. You're guilty. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, granted, outside of the circumstances, getting to know Cora like we have because of Harry and everything, then maybe that kind of, as the audience, gives us a different perspective. But, you know, from the telling of the story, and it does paint Gloria as kind of an antagonist in a sense. So, but we did see JD basically set a trap and beat up Mason's dad because The only reason why Gloria went after JD's girlfriend like he did was because she talked to Mason, and Mason kind of let that all spill. I'm sure like Caitlyn, like you see Caitlyn kind of looking down at everything because she knows all the evidence that kind of led to that arrest and everything was because of Mason and what he did, and she kind of told him to back down. But when things were kind of going down and earlier in the episode about the whole like new body that was found, Mason called her immediately. So, but that was kind of it. Like JD did that kind of send a message to Mason. It's like, this is what you get for doing this. Stop messing with my life or something like that. He's like, I know this is you set this all in motion. So, I mean, granted, we did see Mason at the end of the episode with a gun because he knew exactly who was behind it. So, what exactly will transpire? I caught a glimpse of the preview of the next episode by accident. I was trying to like look away, but I ended up catching it. Granted, I didn't see anything specific, so even that's kind of not spoiled for me. So I'm definitely interested to see where that goes. So, I mean, because really all that transpired because of Mason, because of this whole situation, because he's so pissed off at JD. But even then, with the whole JD situation, I still don't think he's the one behind all this. I think it's someone else. I think they kind of got mixed up in all of this because every time like Cora flashes back to that situation, she doesn't like, you never see JD's face exactly with correlating to that exact situation. Maybe he's a part of it, maybe he's not, but definitely, well, no, because there's definitely a lot going on there. Maybe JD is connected in some shape or form because this is all connected to that club that's connected to the where the second body was found. Is called the Beverwick, because that same club is represented by the same lawyer that represents JD. Not a coincidence there. So at first I was kind of making like, oh, maybe JD's not a part of it. Maybe he's indirectly part of it because Harry ended up going downstairs and he ended up, because he saw the wallpaper. It's like very similar to what Cora was saying from her description. And then there's also all these like mask and crap that Harry saw when he went downstairs. So my brain immediately goes to thinking like, this is some weird ass rich people get their kicks doing weird shit type of thing. Like it's some kind of like high society secret club type of thing. I'm thinking that's what this has got to be about. And because there was kind of an interesting thing like about the person who like, because Cora like remembered a memory of her being underneath the bed and she saw a dude with like green pants on and the shoes. It's to do with the mask. And he's like, how did you get under there? Now immediately, like I think that looked like that was a nurse's outfit, like a nurse's uniform that the dude was wearing, like from a hospital. Plus, like, you know, what Cora was wearing, she was kind of wearing like a hospital gown. Obviously, there looked like there was medical equipment in the sense of like some like the thing that they put like bags that they kind of pump into people, you know, whatever it is, whether it's liquids or medicine, whatever it is that they're pumping into people's veins and stuff like that. It looked like the metal piece, like raw thing that holds that up. It looked like that it was something like that. So it looks like there's medical equipment, which, you know, can be pretty pricey. And once again, this seems like a high society thing. So immediately that's where my brain kind of goes like, this is some kind of hunted thing. Like, you know, Maddie and Cora became prey to these people. Maybe the whole them being out there in the woods thing was like oh, you run for your lives, try to escape, and we'll try and run you down and capture you. So that begs the question of why they let Cora go after that 2 months. Why let her go? Either someone changed their mind about this situation, maybe JD had reservations about all this, especially after Maddie died. Maybe that's what kind of finally pushed him over the edge and be like, no, we got to back away from this. And you know, the whole experience was very traumatic, you know, plus she was on drugs at the time. They were pumping her full of things. So, I mean, that would also make sense with the whole, like, her arm situation, too. Like, they were pumping her full of stuff to kind of, maybe morphine and stuff to keep her delirious. Maybe it's not even necessarily heroin. But, nevertheless, because that might tie into why it was so easy for her to kind of detox and, like, recover so quickly, because she was never on any, like, hardcore drug herself that, like, you know, cocaine or heroin or anything like that to kind of wane off of anyway, you know? So, but that's immediately where my brain kind of goes about that whole situation. And you know, maybe that's what went down. Maybe it's not. I'm just curious to see like how JD fits on all of this. You know, maybe he was a part of that before, and you know, there's all those weird things that Maddie would constantly say, like, oh, you want to see me dead, don't you? And so, and the memories kind of make it seem like she was a part of this. Maybe she kind of got her kicks out of this game too, but then maybe she was a part of the whole, like, high society thing as well. And it's like, oh, it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about Cora. She's just JD's plaything. Like, I'm the one that really, you know, something like that. You know, I don't know. It doesn't seem like Maddie on the occasions we've seen has always been, like, the most stable, but who's to say, like, a lot of that stuff is out of context. So maybe like the games kind of got too caught up and she ended up getting killed in the process. Hence, because we do know somebody's body got stepped on and we hear a crunch, and it seemed like it might have been Cora's, but now it's like maybe it was Maddie's, and that's how she ultimately died. So I mean, that's not the only thing that went down in this episode. We also had Faye and Harry, their relationship falling apart. The fact of the matter is, she's kind of tired. She's like, letting Harry move back in was a mistake for him. He's like, oh yeah, I think things are going well. Turns out they're not. She's like, I need you to move out. Which Harry's like, what are you talking about? She doesn't actually give him an explanation. All she says is like, she thought things would work, things would be different, but it's like, she's like, even when they're together, she still feels alone. I guess that can kind of coincide with last week's episode, because let's not forget, like, he's like nodding and stuff like that. Oh yeah, and she could, obviously tell he's not really listening. And then like she's calling to him, and he's going to basically, check out the body. So once again, I felt like I kind of brought this up last week's episode, like, oh yeah, that's going to kind of be a little dig against you, because then she's eventually going to feel like, wait, did you bring me out here because you knew there was a body out here? So that conversation didn't directly come up, but maybe indirectly that's kind of what's leading into it, that she know, or maybe she knows about that whole situation with Harry and that lady. Still not quite sure understanding what she does. Like, it seems like she pulls on him once again. I guess it's like a situation of like making him feel pain, making him feel worthless or something. I don't know. Like, once again, a dominating situation. I just don't know exactly what she's doing. It looks like she's pulling on his arm and just making it hard for him to like get away. So maybe it's kind of supposed to be like almost like a metaphor for his life or something like that. I don't know. There's also an interesting thing that kind of popped up in this episode too, is the fact is that Cora and Harry talk. Like, at first it's just like, he's like, hey, don't take the deal. But even then, that they actually sat there and talked a little bit about her life, a little bit about him being the only child and everything. And it's kind of interesting, which obviously is going to go, like, Gloria's going to hold that against him. It's like, oh, you talked to Miss, you talked to Cora for a while, didn't you? So adding more to like what's going on here, especially certain aspects of the previews kind of pointed it out. Like, oh, what is up with you two? So it's interesting that the narrative is kind of switching like that to make it seem like Harry has perverse reasons for doing what he's doing. It's like, oh, you're only doing this because she's a pretty woman. You don't want to see a pretty woman in jail and in trouble for this whole situation. Which obviously, like, I continue to say, like, I feel like there's a lot more to it. Definitely, it's like, maybe it's simply finding out the truth, or there's just something there, and I'm very curious to finally find out what is it that is motivating Harry to do all that he's doing for Cora. I'd love to find out more about the whole situation, like the final day, like Cora was home. Ultimately, what went down between Phoebe and her parents. Maybe, in all honesty, they're painting this picture like, oh, Phoebe died. Maybe when Cora was gone, Phoebe was just fed up. She was like, the only reason why she wanted to stick around was because of Cora. And maybe when Cora left, maybe Phoebe decided, no, I've had enough, I'm leaving. And her mom snapped and killed her. And the dad's been covering it up for all these years. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, what if that ends up being the twisted twist to it twisted twist. I don't know why I said it like that. What if we end up finding out the bones aren't actually Maddie's, that they're actually like Phoebe's in some weird way or something? I don't know. I mean, that's where my brain goes, but it's definitely Maddie's. I just thought that would kind of be interesting. Like, what if that was the case? I mean, it's most likely just going to be like I'm overthinking it, and like obviously Phoebe did die from natural causes from her illness and everything, but maybe that kind of got, I mean, that might be the thing of like it escalated even more because Phoebe didn't have Cora to rely on. She just kind of got stuck there with her parents, so I'm very interested, like I said, getting back to it, like finding out what happened like the day Cora went missing, the whole thing with JD at the bar and everything. Like, where was, like, were Cora and Phoebe on good terms then? Did something happen? What happened to the whole, like, them moving away thing? Did the mom find out about it and steal all their money or something? Or did it just never go through just because of what? I'm just curious to find out. Hopefully next episode we'll kind of dive into that and find out more about that, because I'm very interested to see where this goes, especially next episode. We are only 3 episodes left in the center, so I'm very curious to see like how this all plays out going forward. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.